My name is Laurie Jones. I live in Georgia. I'm a health scientist and Commissioned Corps officer in the United States Public Health Service, and I deploy in times of public emergencies. So part of my work as a responder on the Rapid Deployment Force team, many years ago, I would deploy out and see the devastation, naturally so, of the communities, because what we do is we go in and set up a federal medical station, and for a period of typically 2 weeks to give the states time to rebuild their infrastructure. And I would see that the people in need that we were coming to support, that they had questions, like they needed help, and I didn't know how to provide them support, as well as my team members. You know, it's time away from their families, and we're in not so nice areas sometimes, and so I would see the stress, and I was concerned because they would come to me, like, I guess just wanting comfort, and I didn't know how to give it. And so that's where the whole idea of, like, well, maybe I need to go back to school and figure out, like, how I can better support my team and the community. And so that's where the interest in counseling came from. And then I was doing some research on dance movement therapy, and I didn't realize that although it's been a field for 50 plus years, I had never heard of it. And so when I was reading it, I became so intrigued. It's like, dance, that's my love, that's my passion, and therapy, helping people. It's like, and the combination of the two together, like, this is it, this is what I want to do. And I became aware of a program called Moving in the Spirit, where a lady that I wanted to work with, Dr. Shernay Furcron, was at, and I was like, I need to get this. I was so impressed with the program that 5+ years later, I'm still there, because the work that they do there with the children is so dynamic. And I've had the opportunity to witness from the baby steps class, from the 3 to 4-year-olds, to some of the kids that are in the mini steps now, the 5 through 7-year-olds. They started out in my baby steps class, and so to see their growth and their progression has just been life-changing. They came in and they were so closed and so sheltered, and then they've just blossomed, they've bloomed. It's just, it warms my heart. So I had been deployed for an emergency response, and we were in a shelter helping the community, and a psychiatrist came over to me, and he was like, oh my God, this kid, like, I don't know what to do with him, please help me. And I was a little nervous because I had just started my internship in movie experience. I was like, yes, I work with kids, but I'm like, I didn't have the experience to be like, what I've learned, I'm like, will it really work in a situation like this? Because, movie spirit, we're focused on prevention, and I'm like, okay, but I'm going to try to see if this child who is running all over the place, throwing wheelchairs into the nurses and screaming and rolling around, and no one can, talk to him without him throwing a tantrum. I'm like, I'm going to practice what I learned. So all the techniques, I got down at this level. I, used my voice. I mirrored him to, see if he saw that I was imitating his movements, to say, like, hey, I see you. Threw in all these techniques that I had learned. And of course it wasn't instantaneously, but I made a connection with him. And a few minutes later, a few moments, like over the 2-week span, it came that boy was attached to my leg. Like, he was with me, like everyone knew, like, that was my little helper. So he was going around helping me, and it was just amazing. It actually made such an impression on the staff that they took a picture of us together to give him a copy of it. And because they were just like, this little kid's like night and day. He came in here like wild, and he was able to self-regulate. He was able to calm down. And we even had, there were some boxes, like cardboard boxes, and I asked staff to help make a suit for him so that he had some kind of level of protection, because it was clearly perhaps he didn't feel safe. Like, it's in a different environment. He doesn't know who all these strangers are, all lumped in together. So he had like a little robot suit. So he had a little helmet with a cutout so he could breathe. But like, it was a little box, and he had a little robot suit. We made the little cardboard tubes, like his arms, and then attached a little fake sword to it. So he was ready. He was like powerful. And so then I got down, and we did a little mirroring game, and I received this sense that he felt safe because of being in there, powerful, because he's like, okay, I'm doing this and you're doing what I'm doing, because I made sure that I'm connected with you, and whatever you do, I'm going to do. And so he's like, okay, my movement has power like that. Like I can affect what's around me. And I gave him that sense of control, like that he had the ability to control his environment, though he didn't. He didn't have the ability to not be in that situation, but he did have the control and the ability to control his internal environment. He was able to use the situation of being in this box with the sword and the shield. He had the opportunity and the experience to, in his body, feel power and control over his situation. So I think the underlining meaning behind why we ask children to mirror is to create a foundation for empathy so that they can develop the skill set to understand and connect with another child and to feel what they're feeling. If we're asking them to pay attention and focus, that's another self-regulation component putting in, because they're like, well, I can't look over off to the side somewhere, because if I'm not looking at them, how can I do what they're doing? So it's like, okay, I have to listen, I have to pay attention, I have to sense, kind of like, because I don't know what's coming next. So it integrates a variety of components through mirroring. Mirroring supports children being able to focus. So the sense that I make out of a child being able to self-regulate through dance, through movement, is that dance, or movement in general, is the one thing that is integrated in us. Like the mind and the body are not separate. They're one and the same. And so by exposing them to the experience of that they have the control of moving and matching whatever they're thinking, their cognition and their feelings to movement, it gives them the power. They're like, you mean I control this? My movements matter? Like I can be sad in a droopy state and go inward, and then at the next instant, like, oh, if we kind of ask like, okay, well, what would your body be doing if you were happy and cheerful, and if your shoulders were broad and your chin was up? They can do that and be like, oh, notice the change. Like, okay, the movement, the change from one state to another, the movement from one feeling to the other, it's in your power. You have the control to do that. We use dance and movement to help children self-regulate their emotions.